Well, welcome. Thank you for coming out. As you may know, Social Security was enacted 90 years ago this week, and it has clearly stood the test of time. There are currently around 70 million beneficiaries who are receiving their earned benefits every month, and there are virtually all working families that are contributing to Social Security and earning their benefits. It's the nation's most important source of retirement income and life insurance, and it is often Americans' only disability insurance. So we're here to celebrate the last 90 years, also to dedicate ourselves to building on the structure that was put in place by Franklin Roosevelt 90 years ago. When he signed the bill into law on August 14th, 1935, he said, "This law represents a cornerstone in a structure which is being built, but is by no means complete." So we are also working to increase the benefits. They are too low, and we are there to expand the benefits to cover sick leave, parental leave, and other things which President Roosevelt, I think, would be surprised haven't already been added. It was what they were considering back in the 1930s when they decided to start incrementally. But very important in the current climate is to protect and defend Social Security. I've been working on Social Security for 50 of those 90 years, but I have never been more concerned. Republican President Dwight Eisenhower, who was a strong Social Security supporter and in fact signed into law extending Social Security, adding disability insurance, he spoke of those who oppose Social Security as a tiny splinter group. He said they are negligible and they are stupid, were his words. Unfortunately, they are now in charge of the Republican Party. So today is a kickoff of a week of action where today we are going to have rallies and events around the country culminating in on next Saturday, on August 16th. So if you go to protectourchecks.org, there'll be a map of events, or if you want to host an event. Well, we are so fortunate to have on our kickoff event such tremendous speakers. We're going to start with our senator, Chris Van Hollen, who has been throughout his career an incredible champion and fighter for Social Security. He's not just fighting to expand and ensure that Social Security is there for the next 90 years. He's also fighting for all of the civil servants who work so hard to make sure that we can access our benefits. They are the reason that Social Security is so strong. And as you know, the headquarters, they're all over the country, but their headquarters are here in Baltimore. He's fighting for those in Baltimore, those all over Maryland, those all over the country, and indeed for all of us who are either receiving Social Security or hope to one day. So with that, let me turn it over to the senator.
Well, thank you, Nancy, and I want to salute all of you who are gathered here today to send a very clear and strong message to Donald Trump and his billionaire cronies. Protect our checks and keep your hands off our Social Security. Are we going to send that message loud and clear? You bet we are. I want to thank Nancy Altman and Social Security Works. She has been dedicated for decades to making sure that we keep the promise of Social Security and expand it, to unrig our economy, to all of you who are gathered here today. As we approach the 90th anniversary of the enactment of Social Security, the day that FDR signed that historic pact into law. And I call it a pact because it was a promise to the American people. And it was a promise that we need to keep. And we need to make sure we rededicate ourselves to keeping that promise. We also need to call out those who are willing to break that promise. That is an important part of keeping it, is defending it and calling out those who would break it. Hundreds of millions of Americans rely on Social Security, the Social Security that they paid into. In Maryland, 1 million Marylanders depend on their Social Security benefits in one form or another. Now, when he was campaigning, Donald Trump as a candidate said he wasn't going to disrupt Social Security. But he hasn't kept that promise, because the promise of Social Security and the promise of those benefits is only as good as your ability to access them. If you cannot access them, that is an empty promise. And on day one of his administration, and certainly in week one, Donald Trump unleashed Elon Musk and Doge on the Social Security Administration. And we've all seen those photos where Elon Musk proudly had a chainsaw. And in fact, he took that chainsaw to the Social Security Administration and began hacking away at the patriotic, dedicated federal employees who work there. And the results were immediate. It was very hard for anybody to get through on the phone lines. The wait times were over 5 hours in some cases, if you could get through at all. The website became inaccessible. The regional Social Security offices all over the country had their staffs cut so that when people went to ask about their benefits, they couldn't find anybody to answer their questions. Now, Donald Trump justified all of this with a lie. You may have remembered when he addressed a joint session of Congress, and he claimed that the Social Security Administration was sending millions and millions of dollars to dead people. That just wasn't true. And we have here, you're going to hear from him, one of the former really great Social Security administrators, Martin O'Malley, who has pointed out repeatedly that the Social Security Administration, in fact, is the most efficient insurer in the world. In fact, much more efficient than private insurance companies. And that's thanks to the hard work of the men and women who work at the Social Security Administration. I want to thank all of them and AFG and the other unions who helped stand up to defend their rights, because they are under attack from Donald Trump and this billionaire cabinet. You may remember that his Secretary of Commerce, Lutnick, said at one point that his mother-in-law wouldn't miss her Social Security check. Well, not every recipient of Social Security checks has a billionaire son-in-law. He also said that the people who would miss the checks would be the fraudsters, calling essentially people who receive Social Security checks fraudsters when they're calling in to make sure that their benefits are there. He said the people who use the phone lines, those are mostly fraudsters. That was part of their reason for trying to move away from answering people's questions on the phone. We have another member of the Trump billionaire cabinet who recently said the silent part out loud. The Secretary of the Treasury, Bessent, said that this provision in what they call the Big Beautiful Bill that created what are called Trump accounts. Secretary of Treasury said that that was a backdoor to privatizing Social Security. That's what he said. And that's sort of giving away the game plan, because it's been a long-term goal of billionaires and folks on Wall Street to privatize Social Security so they can make a buck off of that promise, while that promise is diminished for everybody else. This is a billionaire cabinet that wants to privatize the National Weather Service. They want to privatize education. And they do ultimately want to privatize Social Security. They passed what they call the Big Beautiful Bill, which is only beautiful if you're a billionaire. It comes at everybody else's expense. People on Medicaid, school kids, and others. Make no mistake, that is their holy grail, is to benefit the billionaires. We just saw, there was a headline actually in the Wall Street Journal this week. For the first time, some of the CEOs topped $1 billion in raises. In raises. Part of their annual compensation. And so this is an administration that is looking out for the billionaires at everybody else's expense. When he was sworn in on Inauguration Day, Donald Trump promised a new golden age for America. That's what he said from the microphone. But the people he was really talking to were the people who were sitting right behind him. The billionaire CEO tech company, titans, and the members of his cabinet. And so as we gather to protect Social Security and lay the groundwork for ultimately improving and strengthening its benefits, let's recognize that we are in a hell of a fight. We're in a hell of a fight in this country. We need to unrig the economy that's rigged for billionaires, that provides tax cuts that disproportionately goes to billionaires at everybody else's expense. And remember that we need to make sure that that promise holds for decades more to come. So I will close where I began by thanking all of you for being here and saying, keep your hands off our Social Security and protect our checks. Are we going to make sure we do that? Yeah. We are. Are we going to let them take it away? Yeah. Hell no. Thank all of you for being part of this movement.
Thank you so much, Senator Van Hollen. Our next speaker is another champion, Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller. Now, we would not have Social Security without President Franklin Roosevelt's Secretary of Labor, Frances Perkins. She was the first woman to serve in a presidential candidate. She was a pathbreaker. So is our Lieutenant Governor. Like Secretary Perkins, she is dedicated to improving the lives of the people she serves. Those of us who live in Maryland are so fortunate to have the Lieutenant Governor together with our Governor, Wes Moore, as our leaders and in the fight and helping us every day. They are dedicated, just like FDR and Secretary Perkins were, to improving our lives. And now I have the pleasure, and we all have the pleasure, to hear from her. So thank you.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to be here in Charm City. And you know why? We're going to rise up. We're going to save Social Security. We're going to protect our checks, and we're going to resist. Right? It is so great to be here with each and every one of you today, along with Protect Our Checks Coalition and Social Security Works team, as we celebrate the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, one of the most enduring and successful institutions in American history. I am Aruna Miller, your Lieutenant Governor, and I got to tell you, it is a great honor to be joined by some of Maryland's very big, heavy hitters. So let's give it up for U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen. And you know that he's a tireless advocate for protecting Social Security and standing up for working families. And to our former Social Security Administrator and former Governor, an always leader dedicated to the people of Maryland, Martin O'Malley. and the many other compassionate speakers that you're going to hear from today. But let's also give it up for Nancy Altman, President of Social Security Works. So Governor Moore and my governor philosophy is to build a future and a state where we leave no one behind. And that's exactly the promise of Social Security. Proof that government is a force for good, by the people, for the people. And let's be real, it's an earned benefit, paid into by the people with every paycheck. For 9 decades, Social Security has been a promise kept, a lifeline for seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, widows, widowers, children, and hardworking Americans who spent a lifetime contributing to our great country. Governor Moore keeps a quote in his office from President John F. Kennedy that reads, "Things don't just happen, they're made to happen." Inequality didn't just happen, it was made to happen. The racial wealth gap didn't just happen, it was made to happen. And poverty didn't just happen, it was made to happen. All of these things were made to happen by the choices, by policies, by systems. But here's the good news. If it was made to happen, we have the power to unmake it. And Social Security proves this. It is the most powerful anti-poverty program in our nation's history. Today, more than 74 million Americans receive $1.5 trillion in benefits annually. And here in Maryland, more than 1.2 million Marylanders receive Social Security benefits. That's 1 out of every 5 residents. And it generates $23.6 billion of economic activity annually. And of course, Maryland, as you heard, is proud to be home to the Social Security Administration that employs 10,000 dedicated public servants across the 20 offices in Maryland and over 55,000 employees nationwide. That's why protecting and strengthening Social Security in Maryland and around the nation isn't up for debate, it isn't negotiable, and it isn't going to be gutted under our watch, no matter who sits in the White House. And let me be clear, we're not just here to defend a program, we're here to defend the people who built this country, the people who paid into this benefit with every paycheck, and to the people who've earned the right to retire with their benefits. So thank you all for standing up, for speaking out, and for fighting for that right. And at this time, I have a proclamation that I'd like to present to Nancy. Nancy, if you can come up here. Now, Nancy was asking, or someone was asking, what is a proclamation? Well, this is what it looks like, signed by the governor, myself, and the Secretary of State, Susan Lee. And I'm going to read this proclamation to you, if it's okay, Nancy. Okay, so this proclamation says, from the governor of the state of Maryland, the 90th anniversary of our Social Security, August 14, 2025. Whereas August 14, 2025 marks the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, signed into law in 1935, establishing one of the most enduring institutions in American history. And whereas for 9 decades, the Social Security has transformed the lives of millions of Americans by providing critical financial protection for retirees, people with disabilities, surviving spouses, and families. And whereas Social Security has become the foundation of economic security for generations of Marylanders, helping individuals live better, more secure, and enjoyable lives in retirement with dignity and independence in their later years. And whereas Social Security provides support for more than 1,068,002 Marylanders who rely on the program to meet the basic needs such as housing, food, and health care. And whereas Social Security contributes significantly to Maryland's economy, generating nearly $23.6 billion annually in economic activity. And whereas Social Security is earned by workers over a lifetime of hard work through the contributions they made from their very first paycheck to their last. And whereas Social Security provides peace of mind to people across all walks of life, regardless of income, background, or political affiliation. And whereas Maryland is committed to protecting and strengthening Social Security for both current and future generation, as it remains the foundation of economic security for millions of Americans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, this was a surprise.
This is great. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Want me to come back? Sure.
Well, I was not expecting that. Thank you so much. I will really treasure that. And we are fortunate our next speaker, another champion, one that we all know well, is Martin O'Malley, who is mayor of this fine city, governor of this fine state, and commissioner of the Social Security Administration. When he became, yes, a round of applause I think is deserved. When he was confirmed as commissioner, the agency had been starved for decades, largely by Republican Congresses, while we had 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day, turning 65 every day, and the workload's growing. He worked tirelessly to reduce the backlogs and the wait times, increase morale of the hardworking civil servants, pushing regulations that cut the red tape, and was a leading voice in the importance of this program. He has continued to take that voice, with his tireless energy and commitment to making sure the American people know the damage that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Steve Miller, and the others in the Trump administration who have jurisdiction over Social Security are causing. As I said, I've never been as concerned, but also never so optimistic with the leaders we've heard from and the ones we're about to hear from. So again, a big round of applause for Commissioner O'Malley.
Nancy, thank you. Thanks a lot. Let's give it up for Nancy Altman. Social Security works. And I also really want to thank Lieutenant Governor Miller. Governor, thank you for not only being here today, but for being there at Social Security's headquarters when we were turning things around. Big round of applause for the Lieutenant Governor. Thank you. And I'm so delighted to see Chris Van Hollen. My goodness, there have been very few United States senators as constant in their attention and their defense of Social Security and aware of the hard work of so many of our neighbors, I say here in Baltimore at the kickoff, so many of our neighbors who have kept it going, even with that ketamine-addicted former co-president Elon Musk whipping out his chainsaw and whacking and hacking their staff to pieces. When I say protect, you roar back our checks. Protect! Protect! Protect our checks. One of the people who's here today, I'm going to yield one of my 5 minutes to him, is the man who is the executive vice president of Local 1923 at Social Security. These are the men and women that figure out how to keep that very old green screen COBOL-based system and the 3,000 applications on top of it functioning so that every month, without fail, for 90 years, and so far, even with the devastation that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have caused, has kept those checks going out. So please welcome Shelley Washington. Shelley, come on up to say a word on behalf of those that are still hanging in there.
Thank you much. Former Governor and Commissioner O'Malley here. I just want to speak on behalf of the Social Security employees that I represent here at headquarters. We're here doing the work. We're here. We're going to be here. You know, we're not going to run. We're standing here in solidarity. We're going to make sure that every check gets out properly. You know, we're going to make sure that we're here to do the work for you people. Like I said, this is our earned benefit that everyone in the United States has earned. It's not something that the administration is giving to you. So I'm standing here on behalf of all of the workers here and letting you know that we're working hard for you, and we're going to continue to do so.
All right. Charlie, thank you, Bob. Thank you. Solidarity forever. Let's give it up to the hardworking people at Social Security. How appropriate that Social Security is headquartered here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. One without even a federal government to back us up or a federal army in Washington burned to the ground. The people of Baltimore, black and white, came together in the defense of the Star-Spangled Banner. The rest is history. But the future is made by all of us. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful day to this spot especially. This spot where Frederick Douglass, that man who would become a voice for abolition, for freedom, for the uplifting of human dignity all over the world, actually caulked ships right here. In this business with its board of directors of African American men, they were all men then, at the Social Security headquarters, Shelley, you will remember this. As we were turning things around by the end of the Biden administration to answer calls more quickly, to serve people with disabilities more quickly, to bring down the backlog, we would gather every 2 weeks in a big room, but as we left that room, there was an image, a fierce and free image of Frederick Douglass, the same one that's in this lobby, with the words from Frederick Douglass, reminding each of us that we are one, our cause is one, and we must help each other if we are to succeed. And so it is that this week, in the lead up to the birth date of Social Security, that greatest act of caring and compassion that a free people ever put into law and into practice and into purpose, there are hundreds of events going on, all in a week of action, all over the country, to protect our checks, to alert the democracy so that we rise up and prevent Donald Trump and his ilk from robbing Social Security. And make no mistake, that's what they want to do about it. They want to wreck its customer service. They want to wreck its reputation with big lies like, the zombie apocalypse that is untrue, or illegal immigrants taking our money, when in point of fact, so-called illegal immigrants are prohibited from receiving any money from Social Security, that they do put in $26 billion a year. So why do they need to wreck its reputation and its customer service? Because once they break it, they'll create an emergency situation, and only if they turn enough Americans against it will they be able to get away with robbing it of your money. $2.6 trillion. No other agency runs a $2.6 trillion surplus. So that's the game. And as President Biden recently said, they've already succeeded in robbing us of our peace of mind. How many of those 73 million Americans do you think go online at that date when they had always received their check, which for many is the difference between living with dignity or living in poverty, go online to see, it hit again today. It's here. It's only there because of dedicated people like Shelley and others at Social Security. So they've already succeeded in robbing us of our peace of mind, but they need not rob us of our voice. They need not rob us of our ability to band together and to push back. There are some things they've tried to do, and once they burn their hand on the front burner of democracy and people roar back, they change position. So let me leave you with this final story, true story, happy story. My wife and I welcomed into this world 9 weeks ago our very first grandchild. And I happened to be spending some quality time at my son-in-law and my daughter's home. And with that little baby in my arms, My son-in-law emerges from the front door and says, "Look, what arrived in the mail. A letter from Social Security." And I held that little new life, that little new American in my arms, and I watched my daughter and my son-in-law open that envelope, see their little boy's name and his own individual Social Security number that will say that his nation has his back from cradle to grave. It wasn't just a number. It wasn't just a letter. It said that this little baby is important to his country. And our country is important to that little baby. And every baby born in America. You see, unlike Elon Musk, you and I do not believe that empathy is the greatest weakness in the Western mind. No. We believe as Frederick Douglass believed. We believe that we're all in this together. And so, we feed the hungry. We heal the sick. We clothe the naked. We shelter the homeless. We take care of those in the dawn of life and in the dusk of life, every soul. And nobody, not Elon Musk, not Donald Trump, is going to take Social Security or the United States of America from us. Are you ready? Thank you very, very much.
And it is for Commissioner O'Malley's new grandchild and for all the grandchildren in this country that we are fighting to make sure Social Security is here for them as well and for their children and grandchildren. It is basic economic security. We are fortunate to have with us next a leading disability rights activist, Cyan Centeno Bloom. Now, many people think of Social Security as a retirement program, which of course it is, and that's extremely important. As important as that is, most Americans' only disability insurance is Social Security. The Social Security actuaries tell us that nearly 1 in 4 20-year-olds will develop a disability, making it impossible to support themselves through work before they reach their full retirement age. And we are so important to have people like Cyan who are fighting the fight. She is an activist, she's an educator, she's written an author of a child's book. She works to make products more accessible. Social Security has one of the most stringent, maybe the most stringent tests of disability of anywhere in the world. It is extremely hard to qualify for Social Security's disability benefits, notwithstanding that it's an earned benefit. Yet, if you can believe it, the Trump administration is working right now to make it even harder. We are fighting back on that. Consequently, Cyan's work is more important than ever. Like the Lieutenant Governor, Cyan is a path breaker, and I'm really looking forward to hearing her remarks. So let's welcome Cyan.
Thank you guys for having me. This country hasn't always delivered on all of its promises. From its founding, it spoke of freedom, although it wasn't always extended to all of us. And yet, through organizing, resistance, and relentless pressure from the people, there were moments when the country did fulfill its promises. The establishment of Social Security was one of those pivotal moments in American history. When President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act in 1935, it was not merely an act of charity, but a response to the people's demands for the government to uphold its promises and responsibilities. The backdrop of mass poverty, economic collapse, and widespread political unrest pressured the government to take action. Older adults, workers, the disabled, and low-income families lacked protection, compelling them to organize, protest, and bring the issue to the forefront of the national agenda. And they won. FDR referred to Social Security as a cornerstone in a structure which is being built, but is by no means complete. This cornerstone was laid during the Great Depression, a time when capitalism was on the brink of failure. 1 in 4 Americans were unemployed, and there was no safety net for those in need. FDR recognized that freedom and the social contract hold little value when individuals are starving, ill, or disabled, and abandoned by their government. Necessitous men are not free. This is what he said, emphasizing that a person without food, housing, or income lacks the fundamental ability to participate in democracy. FDR's Social Security Act established a structural guarantee that the government would never again stand by idly while its citizens suffered. The Republican tax law destroys the promises and responsibilities that the government owes us. It cuts food assistance for disabled adults and hungry families. It cuts Medicaid, punishing those who are sick. It slashes supplemental security income for families with more than 1 disabled child. And it does all of this while giving more tax breaks to corporations and the wealthiest Americans. Let's be clear. Social Security disability insurance and supplemental security income are not handouts. I worked hard for years for my benefits. And when my illness spiraled out of control, it's been there to help me find my footing again. Social Security disability insurance has even given me the ability, through its vocational rehabilitation services, to pursue my college degrees. And I was the first in my family to graduate from college, and I'm currently getting my bachelor's in political science. This degree will open doors for me to work from home, accommodating my specific conditions and needs. Social Security disability insurance is just that. Insurance for when life happens. We paid into it through every paycheck. Supplemental security income is the floor. The minimum protection for people who never had a fair chance to participate in the economy to begin with. I followed the rules. I did what was asked of me. And now that I need this system, I'm being told I'm a burden. But the burden is not us, the people, it's the rich. Don't let the Republicans in Congress fool you into thinking that your neighbors are the problem. As Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote, the legitimacy of any government depends on whether it reflects the general will, the collective good, not the concentrated wealth of a few. A government that protects billionaires while abandoning ordinary Americans has already broken its contract. And if you're still not sure where you stand, I'll offer you a question from one of my favorite political philosophers, John Rawls. What kind of society would you build if you didn't know who you'd be in it? That's the veil of ignorance, a philosophical idea based on not knowing if you'd be born rich or poor, abled or disabled, healthy or chronically ill. The purpose of Rawls' veil of ignorance is for our lawmakers to make decisions that benefit the most people, regardless of their economic or social status. If you genuinely believed you could land anywhere in this system, you'd build protections, not strip them away. You'd protect programs like Social Security disability insurance and supplemental security income because one day they may save your life. So, to Congress, we say, if you want legitimacy, keep your word and protect the people and protect our checks. Thank you, guys.
Cyan, thank you for those important words, and thank you for all of your work. We're next going to hear from another important voice. Dr. Wendy Osifo is professor here at Johns Hopkins and also visiting professor at Wesleyan College. She contributes to all of us in so many ways. Through her political strategy and commentary, she's appeared on every major outlet you can think of. Through her research and writing, through her teaching, and through her acting. As most of you probably know, Wendy is a real housewife of Potomac. And so let's welcome Wendy and hear her remarks.
Hi, everyone. Part of being a real housewife is you wear heels even if there's holes on the floor. So apologies. Good afternoon. Thank you, Nancy, for that great introduction. My name is Dr. Wendy Osifo, and I'm so honored to be here with you today. Some of you may know me as an author, a professor, as Nancy mentioned, but deep down at my core is my advocacy for social justice that really centers me. And today is a little bit different, because I stand here before you not as any of those things, but as a mother, a daughter, and an American who is fed up with President Trump and congressional Republicans' threats to Social Security that our parents, our neighbors, and our loved ones have spent a lifetime earning. No matter what Republicans in D.C. say, Social Security is not an entitlement. They're not doing this a favor. It's a payback for decades of hard work that we have all gone through. We didn't wake up at 5 a.m. not to reap the benefits of those things. This is what we earned. No matter what anyone tells you, you have to believe that. Many of our loved ones got up every morning, put in a full day's work, paid their taxes, unlike a lot of billionaires these days. And they did so with the promise that they'll one day receive the benefits they spent a lifetime contributing to. And how have Republicans thanked us for this? By gutting Social Security staff, freezing its funding, and undermining the program's future. They've even proposed privatizing the entire program. See, this fight for me doesn't mean anything to my social media, my platform. It's personal for me. I am the daughter of immigrants. My mother, Iyom Susan Okuzu, came to this country from Nigeria with just a single suitcase and a fierce determination to build a better life for herself and her future family. She started out working at a fast food restaurant. She started from line cook and worked her way up, and one day became a manager. And to thank that very restaurant for giving her a piece of the American dream, she named her second daughter after that restaurant, Wendy. I stand here before you as a manifestation of the American dream. I stand here before you as someone whose mother woke up every day to get a piece of the American dream. So again, it's not a talking point, it's personal. Her story mirrors that of so many in her generation. They spent 30 or 40 years working hard, raising families, and caring for those around them. Now, it's our turn to care for them. That's why we're all here today, right? Right? because we won't let Republicans in Washington, D.C. rip away the benefits our loved ones have worked hard to earn. Also, they can use that money to pay for the tax breaks they're giving to their millionaire friends. We won't sit around and let them hurt our parents, our aunts, our uncles, and our future generations. Today, tomorrow, and forever, we are standing up and standing together to simply say 3 words: protect our checks. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those remarks, which reminds us that it is important to realize that when we talk about the 70 million Social Security beneficiaries, each one is an individual. It's easy to get lost, especially in Washington debates, get lost in the numbers and the data. But it's important to remember that Social Security at base embodies our basic American values. It unites us. We are all in it together. We all contribute, and when old age, disability, or death occurs, we draw out. As was said, it is not an entitlement, it's a benefit that we all earned. It's so important to remember the people behind the numbers. Our next speaker, Hal Pollard, a father and local Baltimorean, is here to put a face on Social Security. He will talk to us about the importance of Social Security to him and his family, just as Wendy just did. It's important to remember that he reflects millions of those who received Social Security over the last 90 years, millions who are receiving it today, and the millions who we hope will continue to receive it for the next 90 years and beyond. So with that, Hal.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, everybody here. Thank you all for cooking in the sun. I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can. But Nancy hit the nail on the head. The reason that I'm here is because I'm not special. I'm just like every one of you and every one of those out there that rely on the Social Security system. Okay? I mean, that's it. So I'm going to tell you a little story about my family in 3 parts. And I'll start with my mom. My mom, Betty, she's almost 95. She I think, actually might have the same birthday as the day that the Social Security Act was signed. She's just 5 years older than the act itself. She grew up in the Great Depression, and she grew up trailing her father up and down the East Coast looking for work during the Depression. As a teenager, she started working and started paying into Social Security. As a single mother, she raised her kids, working paycheck to paycheck, counting on Social Security because she wasn't putting any money away. She was trying to make ends meet. She retired from the U.S. Postal Service, but continued to work almost into her 80s, again, to fill those gaps. But Betty's not unique, right? It's not a unique story. She's just one of millions. And her life is living proof that Social Security is a hard-earned lifeline, not a handout. Now, it's time for us to honor our commitments to her and the 73 million other Americans who depend on Social Security every day. We must protect what's ours, okay? I was told that I can't drop any F-bombs, so this is difficult for me, because I'm very upset. To put it extremely mildly. So I'm Hal, I'm 60. I started working in my teens, helping to make ends meet for the family, and every little paycheck, putting some money into Social Security, right? Because we're all in this together. I was a first-generation college student, and I worked my way through school, again, paying into Social Security. Over the years, I've had the joy, along with a lot of you, of of working through 6 different economic downturns, losing my job in 2 of those, wiping out a significant portion of my savings. But, you know, in the back of my head, I've been paying into Social Security, so it's there for me, right? It's not going to save my life, but it might. It might. A little foreshadowing. But again, I'm not unique. And this should remind us all that, you know, those economic surprises are just around the corner. Some of them uncertain, some of them, like, you know, the current one that we're edging into through ridiculous tariffs and voodoo economic mayhem, you know, we don't have control all the time. But now is the time to stand up. Now is the time to be heard. The Republican threats to Social Security are real. Proposals to cut benefits or privatize the system would take from you and me and give to the rich. But we refuse to stay silent. All right. The next part, my son, Ned. He just turned 29. He graduated from Poly at 16, Poly Pride deep inside, and went on to the University of Chicago in 2013, full of promise. But in 2015, as he was wrapping up his second year there, he started having uncontrollable seizures. After 4 months in the ICU, 6 weeks of which were in a medically induced coma, he came out of it. But, you know, largely thanks to Maryland Medicaid, it literally helped save his life. You know, a support system that's underpinned by Social Security. And thanks, Gov. You know, for the past 10 years, he's battled for every moment. Multiple surgeries, endless hospitalizations, medical devices, countless medications. He's been deemed totally and permanently disabled. He can't work or live on his own. But each month, he receives a modest but extremely vital SSI and SSDI payment to help him survive, to help us keep him alive. He also relies on Medicare. It literally is a lifeline that he depends on. His medications alone cost over $3,000 a month. But the system is there, and it helps him every single month. Good folks like Shelley are out there doing the work, despite incredible hardship, ridiculous pressure. And from my family to yours, man, I appreciate it. But congressional Republicans want to strip Ned of his financial support and health care, and everyone else here. Why? To pay for tax cuts for billionaires. Because they say we don't have enough money. I have a former commissioner who knows full well we do. Congress must act now to protect our Social Security. Okay? All right, I'm bringing it home, folks. Social Security just isn't a government policy. It's a legally binding contract with every single American. It's not charity. It is a promise. But congressional Republicans, obedient to their master, Donald Trump, threaten to break that promise. They ignore their responsibilities to working families and disabled citizens, all for the benefit of the billionaire patron. Social Security and Medicaid care are not bargaining chips. They are lifelines, earned and essential. For Betty, my mom, for me, my son Ned, and for all of us, we must fight to keep that promise. Together, let's stand up and be heard. Now is our time. Let's make our message unmistakably clear. We are organizing. Thank you, Protect Our Checks. We are protecting what is ours, and we will not back down. Thanks, everybody.
All right, let's give a warm round of applause to all of our speakers today. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your day on this beautiful Saturday here on the harbor to come fight for Social Security. You all have jobs to be at, naps to take, strolls to do, but you all decided to be here because you know that Social Security is under threat. Republican tariffs are driving up prices at the grocery store, as you probably have seen. Their bills are rising the cost of healthcare and electricity, and they've even found time to hand out more tax breaks to billionaires. And now they want to mess with our Social Security, and we're not going to let them take that away from us. No. We've heard from so many today about the importance of Social Security, the threats it faces, and the role it plays in people's lives. With over 73 million people who rely on Social Security, it's now more important to remember that everyone on Social Security is someone, and someone that everyone knows. Many of us here either rely on Social Security or our loved one does. And I'm proud to stand with you today to protect the people we care about and the benefits that we have all earned. So stick around. We have free food. We are going to have great music in a couple of seconds. And thank you all for showing up, speaking out, and protecting our checks. Woo! All right, DJ Ty, give us something nice.